Hello, Dad here. I am at the Burbank Central Library here in Burbank, California. This is after the prologue. This is really phase one or lesson one or whatever you want to call it of the video series that I'm going to do on assault and rape prevention. One of the things, I'm here for a very specific reason. But first, I want to preface what I have to say by trying as best I can to sort of paraphrase a little parable that I first read from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. He's an Army psychologist. I believe it first appeared in his book on combat. Either that or it was on killing, I don't remember exactly. But it's a very good story, and I read it the first time when I was with the LA County Sheriff's Department, Reserve Forces Bureau. Essentially the gist of the story is that there's three basic types of people: the sheep, the wolves, and the sheepdogs. The sheep, which is nothing disparaging about that, the sheep are 98% of the human population. Those are the kind people that go about just wanting to live their life, not bothering anybody, just want to do their work, have their careers, their families, not cause any trouble. 1% of the population are predators, or wolves. They have claws, they have fangs, they snarl, they growl, and they kill sheep. So they're predators. And this predation is what scares the sheep about the wolves. And for good cause, because they wreak havoc. The other 1% of the people are the sheepdogs. Unfortunately, sheepdogs have some similarities with wolves in that they have fangs, they have claws, they can snarl and growl, and they too are okay with violence. The difference is, let me back up. The sheep oftentimes are scared of the sheepdogs because they look like wolves. And the sheep, unfortunately, have a hard time differentiating. The sheepdogs, instead of being predators, on the other hand, have great love and compassion for the sheep. And because they're okay with violence, they are willing to engage with the wolves. They are the ones that protect the sheep. And in this analogy, these are the police officers, first responders, military, those who, when a fight breaks out, they run to the fight. There's a good series of commercials on about those who run towards the sound of chaos. And those are the sheepdogs. They're willing to use violence to protect the peaceful, gentle people from those who are preying on them, the predators of the wolves. Okay, so that's a quick synopsis. You really owe it to yourself to look that story up, again, by Lieutenant Colonel Grossman. And I also want to preface this by saying a lot of the way I conceptualize how we deal with violence comes from a lot that I've read and participated as far as purchasing a lot of their materials. is Tim Larkin and his target focus training. When I was younger, I did jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, some xingyi, a few other things. But I always found they were lacking a little bit because of the more sport nature of the discipline. And I'm not saying they're not useful in a confrontational type situation, but Tim Larkin's group, again, target focus training, I highly recommend their materials. There's also, I believe the organization is called the International Society of Close Quarters Combatives. Again, a lot of good information. And they have a lot of information also dealing with social chaos and societal collapse, things like that. It is very interesting. I use a lot of that information to augment what I learned with the Sheriff's Department and with the Department of Corrections. Okay, so I'm here in Burbank for a very specific reason. This is where my interest in defense and dealing with predators and those that prey on the weak and the innocent and the ignorant really blossomed. It was probably, I don't want to turn it off here. Again, my mighty Samsung phone, I think it's like an S1.5. Probably around 1971, 1972. I was, a little skinny 11, 12-year-old. Bad teeth, acne. Just kind of a typical goober kid. And at the time, in 71, 72, Burbank was not quite, it's not a metropolis by any sense of the word, but it was a very more sedate, white bread, middle class, upper middle class, suburban community. And I was here at the library, and maybe you can see in the background there, that little statue of Dr. David Burbank. I was standing by earlier, the dentist that founded Burbank. But it was a very rainy day, and I had been taught and trained, but I had to move my notes, I had been taught and trained, don't take rides from strangers. Don't fear people, but don't go out of your way to be a victim. This particular day, it was very rainy. What we would call kind of a California monsoon. And I was waiting for a bus. I didn't have the dime at the time to use the payphone to call for a ride. So I was waiting for the bus. And this ostensibly very pleasant man said, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And I was wet, and I wasn't thinking. I said, Sure, I'll take a ride. She said, fine. He was there in the north side of the library in the parking lot. And I hopped in the car, and he said, hang on a second, I got to make a phone call. The payphones were inside the lobby of the library at the time. And in his car, there was some reading material that I don't recommend anybody look at, but for a young adolescent male, it was intriguing. So I happened to peek at it, and he came back, a minute or two later, And happened, I said, "Oh, do you like that magazine?" So, I was a little embarrassed, Yeah, it was all right. So he said, "Fine. So, which way do you live?" And I pointed him in the right direction. And he just small talk. And then he reached over, put his hand on my thigh, as my left thigh. Not too high, but just enough, and said some things that were inappropriate. And I realized, that this guy was a pedophile and looking for a target. And I was ignorant, but I wasn't completely stupid. And back then, I'm not sure how Burbank PD is now, but back then, Burbank PD, especially going down Glen Oaks Boulevard, they were pretty proactive. And so we were traveling down the road, and I knew it wouldn't be particularly smart to grab the steering wheel, shift again here, and jerk it over. So I said, let me out now. And he said, no, everything's okay. Well, that didn't satisfy me. So I started to make a scene. I started bouncing around in the car, hooping and hollering, trying to get people's attention. And fortunately, it ended well. He pulled over to the side real quick, said, hurry up, get out. I guess he didn't want the police to thump his predatory rear end. And so that, for better or for worse, that kind of set my mind, my opinions about pedophiles and child molesters. Okay, so what does all that have to do with assault and rape prevention? One, use common sense. Ted Bundy, those guys, they were very charming. It could have ended really bad. It could have been really bad for me. And the Green River Killer, it's just one of those things. Don't take rides from strangers. So situational awareness. Be safe, be aware. And have to understand a little bit, I have to look at my notes here, of the, avoiding bad situations. If you're with trusted people, and even then, where the majority of not incest, but the majority of assaults against young people are from relatives, which is very sad. But know your situation, location, alcohol, drugs. In my case, I was tired, I was wet, I was cold, and at the time, I saw an immediate sense of out, away from what I perceived as the problem. Unfortunately, it stepped into a bigger problem. It ended well, but it was a lesson that unfortunately not everybody's so lucky to get out of. So, and again, like I mentioned in the prologue, clothing, it makes a difference. It really does. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but it's true. Groups and group dynamics. Okay, where do you have a greater chance of being assaulted? At a rave event, and everybody's, on ecstasy, dancing around, dehydrated. It's a good place to make money. If I knew where the raves were, I would take a bunch of bottled water and I'd sell them for $5 a pop. Yeah, yahoo! But that's just the entrepreneurial side. Or a church social. Yes, it happens there too. Assaults happen at church, fights happen at church. But where are they more likely to happen? if you walk into a biker bar and you're flying colors that are a different color than their particular group, or you're in a neighborhood that happens to fly blue colors and you inadvertently happen to be wearing, oh, my red sneakers, use some common sense. Be aware of what's going on around you. Okay, also, social versus asocial violence. Social violence would be like sparring, sport fighting, schoolyard dust-ups, what some people call monkey politics, where you're just trying to establish the pecking order, dominance and submission. And then there's just violence and survival. And I don't like it when people talk about, somebody winning a fight. And, in a sporting event, yes, there's winners and losers. In a survival event, all you have is survival. And that is the long and short of it. Either you walk out of it intact and the assailant has been disabled, because the whole purpose of you understanding the proper use of violence is so you can stop the assault to where that person is no longer a threat to you. And you're the only one that can determine when that situation exists. Sometimes people will break off, but if it's a true criminal sociopath, they know what they want, and they will achieve what they want by using violence. And that means putting you out of commission. So you have to be willing to engage and be the sheepdog to protect yourself, your family, your loved ones, the innocents. We've had some recent shootings where people have stepped up, and sometimes it ended badly for them. But like University of North Carolina, just yesterday, there was a young man who lost his life engaging a shooter. The man's a hero, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, he lost his life in the process, but he saved many others. So I have a great deal of respect for that. Okay, and again, these little videos, when I do the classes, they're longer. We go and explore these things in more depth. I would like these videos to be the basis for when I get better equipment and get some people to assist me for some better training. Maybe actually do some paid stuff. But these, for lack of a better word, they're my way to help evangelize rational self-defense and assault and rape prevention, and the proper place for violence. Not to encourage people to start violence, but if somebody insults you or your wife or your kids or your mother, so what? Let it go. Usually that's somebody that's just trying to be a bully, try to establish social dominance, or try to look good for some female that he's trying to impress. And just ignore it, on the way out, He can call you a coward or whatever he wants. Okay, fine. But there's no use, there's no sense in engaging in something like that just to satiate your pride. Okay, okay. Real quick here, your primary weapon, that is your brain. A lot of people think, you ask them, well, what's your primary weapon? And they say, that's my shoes, or a club, or a knife, or a firearm, or a nuclear bomb. Or those are all just variations on the theme of a tool. Those are all tools that help augment the brain. The brain is the weapon, the central processing unit. That's the one that will direct everything else in both the predator and in the person that's defending themselves. So if they're a well-trained criminal, their goal is to shut down your central processing unit, or to break parts and wreck body systems so you're incapacitated, so they can get what they want. Whether it's loose change in your pocket, your cell phone, or to rape you. Or maybe they just enjoy killing. Maybe they need to do that, maybe they need to kill somebody so they can get into a gang or whatever. So there's those things to contend with. So your brain, your tools, again, your brain is the primary weapon. Your body is the weapon's platform. Okay? That's the delivery vehicle. Everything else are the tools that the weapons platform uses to deliver. And that could be hands, feet, elbows, thumbs, knives, guns, rocks, clubs, sticks, nuclear bombs. Those are all tools that you can use. The Marine Corps martial arts program, they teach their people in the, I think it's still called the McMap program, unless it's changed again. Used to be a linear inline neurological engagement or something like that. But they teach one mind, any weapon. Okay. Which, you know, that's catchy. I prefer to think of your mind as the weapon, because that is the most dangerous thing. Is there anything I want to go over on this one? No, that's it for this little video. I wanted to help set the stage. Again, if you're finding any kind of value to this, or you think you might find value to this, because I do want to get into actual hands-on things. I need to pick up a little stand or something for the phone, or somebody's got a camera that I can use, and somebody to help assist me. I'll do what I can by myself. Again, I'm pretty far from home while I'm out here working. But I would like, if you're finding any kind of value to these little videos, to please like them, share them, subscribe. I want to get the word out. I'm a very peaceful guy, but unfortunately, a lot of peaceful people are not okay with violence. And I hate to see, you know, people become a victim. How many rapists, you know, when they've raped somebody, when they take them in for booking, they've got scratches and marks all around their eyes and from the fingernails of their victim. But that tells me that the socialization of very nice people, they don't want to actually hurt somebody. They want to stop the attacker, but really the only way to stop something like that is you have to hurt them. And if your fingers are there by the eyes, I just poked myself. You can stick your finger in their eye. You know, you can scratch the cornea. You could bury your thumb into their eye socket and dig out their eyeball from the orbit, or pop it. And we'll go over some stuff like that, you know, how to properly do that only in a self-defense, you know, life and death situation. This is not for a little dust up on the streets. You know, it's not for schoolyard brawls. And just understand that if you do it right, the assailant is going to be stopped. You know, writhing in pain, screaming in agony, and in that case, you know, maybe you've got, you know, fluid from the eye leaking out or oozing out all over the place. Just be aware of that. This went a little bit longer than I thought, but I wanted to help set the stage for the other stuff. Again, thank you for spending time with Dad. I've got some other stuff I want to talk about, not particularly assault and rape prevention centered, but about events that well-meaning but misguided people are doing to neuter the police and prevent the sheepdogs from properly doing their job. All right, you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Thank you for spending time with Dad. Bye.